Blog Talk Radio. And welcome to the Aha Moments radio show for the inspiration, education, and celebration of 5D living worldwide. I'm Mari, and we have so much to talk about today. We have, first of all, our energy check-in is that we have 6 planets in retrograde. We just had a new moon just the other day, and which actually kind of lightens the load a little bit. But we do have, we had Pluto go direct yesterday after being retrograde for, I don't know, since April or May. And now we have 6 planets in retrograde, including Mercury in retrograde. So generally in 5D frequency, when you get 5D fluent, the planetary things don't apply as much as they do when you're not fluent, because you kind of rise even above that and go out into the infinite field, which is beyond the whole, kind of ley lines of the earth and all the planetary stuff. However, when we start getting 5 and 6 planets, 7 planets in retrograde, and all sorts of astrological things kind of going at each other, and then we had Chiron closest to the earth the other day, then it's been since 1895 or some insane thing, and then we had, all these trining things, squaring things and trining things and blah, blah, and meteor showers and all these things that we have going on right now over the last several weeks, several months actually, and then we have Mercury retrograde on top of that, and we're kind of hitting the middle phrase of that. It is important to take a breath, especially if you're sensitive, especially if you've been on this path for a while and you're used to a certain kind of dexterity in the way you can manage your manifesting, how your day goes with your own creation and all that kind of thing. If you're an advanced light worker, we have a tendency, advanced light workers, advanced light leaders, and I'll talk about the distinction of that in a minute. We have a tendency to take ourselves a little for granted because we can kind of write ourselves in the air when energy is not so great. Most advanced light leaders have some sort of semblance of a practice of energetic hygiene that they do on a regular basis. They know how to, clear and center and shield and protect, and they kind of know when to do each thing quite a bit. But when you start to personally know that you're, with as much experience as you have, or as much, intellectual knowledge about all these things as you have, but things still seem like they're kind of going super wonky, it's a moment to take a step back and say, okay, let me check in with these things that are kind of bigger and see what the planets are doing. I never pay attention to retrogrades and things like that, but over the last several weeks, it's been so intense and so insane, and like every one task splinters into 10 or 11 tasks, all kinds of crazy mishaps. And so I stopped and I said, well, let me just go and check in and see what's going on. And sure enough, I was like, that's it. Okay. So what happens, the difference between the way beginners handle that kind of stuff, astrology, numerology, and advanced people handle that, is beginners kind of take it as gospel. Like, there's nothing I can do. The planets are doing this to me. And they kind of go out looking for, it must be the planets. It must be the toxic people around me. It must be that person or this thing or that. It's kind of the blame, shame, guilt, fear thing. And blame, shame, guilt, fear, all of that doesn't exist in 5D. It's not on the energetic infrastructure. It's just not. So that's a 3D infrastructure. It's a 3D construct. So generally people who aren't fluent see all of that stuff as like this undoable thing, but you always have free will. You always have, even when there's all these trining things and 7, 8, 9 planets in retrograde and everything, it just means that you have to double down with your intention, double down with your your energetic creative abilities, and double down with your energetic hygiene and your energetic hygiene practice. If you don't have those things, then you need to get in touch with me. You need to be a part of the 5D Academy, because that's what we focus on. We focus on getting you as fluent in your energetic abilities and your energetic practices as you are in your 3D abilities and your 3D practices. And when you have the two of those integrated with your eyes open, not in a trance, not in a deep meditation, but in your day-to-day, and you can access the infinite as fluently as you do your intellectual mind, magic happens. True magic. The magic and the mundane integrate and connect. So I'll talk a little bit more about what's going on in the Academy. Have some great things coming up that hopefully you would be interested in participating in. And if you want to apply to participate and see if you qualify to be in the Academy, the way to do that is www.theahaway.com/5D apply. And as we get a little bit further in the show, I'll talk about really what we're looking for and what type of person works best in the Academy. But for now, today's topic, I want to get into this because I want to, first of all, we're going to talk about the difference between a light worker and an advanced light worker and an advanced light leader. And then we're going to get into a really important topic today, because what I find is that people, and if you didn't listen to last week's show, you want to make sure you go back and you listen to it, because we got into some really deep conversations about deeply hidden blocks that can be quite confusing and debilitating for the advanced light worker, advanced light leader. And one of those things is what I call the weary light worker syndrome. And when I have people come to me, and I always say this to my clients, nobody comes to me and says, "Oh, Mari, my life is working perfectly. Now I need you." It's quite the opposite. The advanced light workers, though, they come to me and they're exhausted because they've tried all sorts of things. They've had the beginner's luck. They've gotten the parking spaces because they programmed for it energetically, and they've had their angel sightings and their signs and symbols and synchronicities and all of those things. And they've thought about the people, and they show up and call on the phone and all that kind of beginner stuff, which is great, and it's wonderful. And magic is magic, I only put a linear beginner, intermediate, advanced kind of construct on it, because our 3D minds really need to understand that this is not just a Sunday go to meet and approach to energetic fluency. This is your frequency-based abilities are inborn senses that every single person is born with. It's not a special gift. It's not, some otherworldly ability. It is your natural way of being. It's what you were born with. And your energetic senses are meant to carry 80% of the load of your life. Your 3D senses are meant to carry 20%. So we've got the energetic 80-20 rule. 80% frequency first, 20% 3D logisticizes it on the planet as you walk the earth, as you go through your daily life, okay? When you put the two of those together and they actually are balanced and you're equally fluent on both sides of that fence, anything is possible, really and truly, and it's not just a cliche. It goes out of cliche mode and goes into reality. So as we have that, that ability, though, the beginner's luck stuff, and we start asking for more. So if you've been one of those people who's read all the books, read the books 2-3 times, hoping you'll see something you didn't see the time before, or you binge on the podcast and hope that, you'll get all this information, and your life is still not quite, you still don't have your mission and gear. You still don't have all of the things that you really need and desire. You still have some, big pockets of lack sort of around you. Or what I find with people who come to me now at this stage in the Academy is they've done big spiritual transformational retreats. They've paid for, coaches. They've had, they've traveled. They generally have, their creature comforts kind of covered. They're not so worried about, oh, will I ever have the money to buy a house, or, oh, I can't make ends meet. They're way beyond that point. They've had the big careers. They've had the marriages and things, but they hit a wall. They hit a wall and they say, you know what? I've done that amazing travel. I have my, a good chunk of my creature comforts. I mean, it's always nice to have another home or another, elevated level of, living or whatever. But there's something missing. There's a piece that's missing, or it's been hard won. It's been a hard trudging thing, or the fulfillment isn't there, or they feel like they're not understood, right? That you're just on the edge, that you're not understood, that people don't quite different from your family or different from your friends. Yes, you've mastered the basic successes in life. Nobody's saying, oh, she's just so struggle, she's in so much scarcity, she's in so much life. Nobody's really looking at you like that because you're past that point. But you have the stuff, but you're just like, where's my engine? Where's my passion? What's my mission? How, I've tried all these different things, but now I'm to a point where I want more meaning. I want to understand who I am, where I fit in, and all of that. And I'm on a search. I'm on a journey, but I'm alone. The majority of my friends, they're doing their fancy parties, or they're, whatever. They're raising their kids, or their kids are going to college, or whatever those things are. But it's just they're not relating. That person comes to me, they have what I call weary light worker syndrome. And weary light worker syndrome is where you've tried all the things, but the dots aren't connecting because you're not completely fluent. So there's chunks missing. So as hard as you try in the things that because other chunks are missing, all the dots don't connect. It's kind of like having a string of lights for the Christmas tree. A few lights are lighting and a few lights aren't, and you can't figure out which of the lights are blown out, so the whole string isn't lighting. Whereas, you might have a whole set of strings of lights on a Christmas tree, and some are lighting, some aren't, some are blinking and they shouldn't be, some are not blinking and they should be, all that kind of thing. But it's because it's not, there's missing bulbs, there's missing pieces, and that shorting out of the frequency can really be misinterpreted as something majorly wrong. And this is often the difference between a beginner who's starting on the path and an advanced person. Advanced people, they're like, wait a second, I think by all society's 3D standards, I should be thrilled with my life. But what's missing? There's an energy that's missing. There's a connection that's missing. And throwing money at it in the sense of buying more material thing. Oh, maybe I need a Rolex, or maybe I need a vacation, another vacation. I've already been to Canyon Ranch. I've already been to Sedona. I've already been to Miraval. I've already been to the big spas. I've done all these things, but where is this function in the frequency for me? Right? I have a mission and I can't quite put it together, or my mission actually scares me. I'm a little scared of the power that I feel like I'm being led towards. That push me, pull you, that resistance can create, especially for someone sensitive and someone who has a heightened sensitivity because they have been on the path, they have been studying, that can really be disconcerting. And it can throw you into an unnecessary tailspin. So weary light worker syndrome is when people come to me and they've helped the people, they've started practices, maybe now the practice is off, like their sales are off, their client base is off, or they just look at clients and they're exhausted, there's a high level of burnout. Or the types of clients you might be getting are they're not empowered. They're kind of looking to you for, your predictions, your answers, your, telling them every little step to take without doing the work. Those types of things where you're kind of hitting that wall, whether it's in your healing practice that you have, or even, if you're an executive or a consultant or an entrepreneur, and things just feel off. You know that you have a mission and a calling, but now even the mission and the calling feels exhausting. That's weary light worker syndrome. And I think it's very, very important to be aware that exists. And, a lot of times what's very interesting, and this is what we're going to talk about today, is some of that is actually a hidden sign that you're about to have a breakthrough. So, they have the old adage, it's always darkest before the dawn and don't quit before the miracle happens. Well, in this case, it's the truth. There are definitely some deeply nuanced, subtle, hidden signs that you're about to have a breakthrough as an advanced light worker that look a little different than people who aren't, people who are just kind of dabbling around and coming to this work from a place of curiosity versus a place of commitment, from a place of, wanting the next tip or trick, kind of approaching it like church, 1 hour a week should be good for my spiritual practice, even the idea of having just a spiritual practice. I don't like the word spiritual practice because it implies that it's separate. And we're not talking about spirituality here as much as we're talking about frequency fluency. Okay, so spirituality to me is kind of an extension of formalized religion. It was kind of like a bridge word. People don't really know where that bridge was going to, but it's a bridge word. It's kind of like, well, I don't want to do the quote formal religion anymore, so I'm spiritual. I'm not religious. Okay, well, that's a pretty now in where we're at now in 2021, where the energetic grid is at, where we are in this energetic evolution. That's a fairly primitive thing to say. Now it's about frequency fluency, because religion implies that it's kind of sometimes there, sometimes not. If you do it, it applies. If you don't, it doesn't. Frequency is like the overlay over your physical senses. So you're not just blinking your eyes on Sunday from 10 to 11 in church. You're not just taking a breath for an hour on a Thursday. You're not just smelling or seeing or tasting or hearing for 1 hour a week and then expecting that everything you need to hear in those other 5 days, 6 days of the week, it doesn't really matter because that 1 hour covered you for hearing for the week. Well, that's when you approach frequency fluency from a place of, quote, spiritual practice, unquote. You truncate the way your frequency can support you because you truncate your care and attention and consciousness of that frequency to relegate in your spiritual practice. I hear people say all the time, oh, Mari, they treat me like a personal trainer. Oops, I didn't get to that. Oops, I didn't get to this. When I'm doing different, like interview calls or breakthrough calls, and we're, kind of evaluating whether someone's right for the bigger work in the academy and these, higher levels of fluency and leadership. I hear certain markers and it's like, yeah, you're not quite ready yet to come on board at this tier. And a lot of that is because people are still kind of just they're hoping to get on this call with me and get a quick psychic reading or a quick, tip or trick. And that's just like, don't bother. don't apply if that's what you're looking for, because we're beyond that. Now we're really, really focusing now on getting this tier of light leaders out to the world, fluent, solvent, feeling really good, feeling nimble, energetically nimble, feeling energetically empowered to really know that their toolkit is there. Not only do they know the toolkit is there, but they know what's in it. And then not only do they know what's in it, they know how to use it. And then not only do they know what's in it and know how to use it, they actively apply it to every area of their life, whether it's something as mundane as what shirt to pick out to wear for the day, to something as, huge as starting channeling a book or creating their own healing modality or, developing a film or, finding their twin flame or whatever the thing is, whatever those things are, those bigger mission things, both on a personal level and a professional level. That's what fluency gets you, is that energetic dexterity. So this is very, very important. All that being said, even before people get into the academy, if you're walking around and you're an advanced light leader, an advanced light worker, and you're sort of discovering that, there are 5 hidden signs that you are about to have a breakthrough. And if you kind of at least have some awareness about this, then you won't abandon ship on yourself. You won't abandon yourself on your path, because that's the worst type of abandonment, right? We're all afraid of some sort of rejection and abandonment. Most people have been through something like that, and it's been interpersonal relationships or even work relationships where people betray you at work or things like that when you're in those kinds of careers. And it's important to recognize that when you are frequency fluent and you have that two-way conversation with your higher self, and you're able to know how to ask your higher self, and also know how your higher self is sending you those answers and getting those contextual downloads and writing those pages out in your notebook and speaking those conversations into your recorder so that you have your own catalog of channels recording specifically for you from your own expanded higher self. When you have that, there's a level of empowerment that is completely customized to you. Your relationship with your higher self is like your DNA. The way that you personally channel, we focus a lot on your own personal channeling ability in the Academy. The way that you channel those conversations with your own higher expanded self is like your DNA. I have some clients who are artists, and their downloads come as they're painting because they're using their hands, they're using their bodies, they're being creative, and that's a channel. That's an open channel, and that open channel, as they're painting or as they're drawing or as they're coloring, they're getting those downloads. And they keep a notebook right next to their easel, and they jot down their messages. I have a client who gets messages in the shower because water is an amplifier of energetic messages, and she knows, and it's not just, I got some words in the shower. That's not what I'm talking about. This is way beyond that. But it's to know, okay, not only do I get the download, because a lot of people don't know how to do that, but how do I initiate that conversation with my higher self? How does my higher self initiate that conversation to me? How do I know that my higher self, my expanded self was trying to get my attention? And how do I know how to tune in and hear that conversation? So if you think of if you ever watch CNN and you see the ticker tape going on the bottom of the screen, the lower third of the screen, and you see the all the different stock symbols coming up, and it's just moving. That's kind of how energetic information is always available to us 24/7. And then you plug in with your care, attention, and your fluency, your language abilities, your energetic language abilities. You plug in, and you can be right in that ticker tape. If you don't know how to plug in, then it's still going on 24/7. You're just not plugged in. So when you are having these tough times or confusing times or frustrating times, or you feel kind of like you've painted yourself into a corner, or all of your skills aren't working out of nowhere, or you're not getting any guidance at all, often those are signs that you are about to have a major breakthrough. So I want to take you through a few of these and talk you through some of this so you can just have a heightened level of awareness of what you might be going through, okay, as an advanced light worker. And like I promised, I'm going to just give the distinction. So an advanced light worker, a light worker is someone who knows that they're curious about the spiritual path. They kind of are led to being part of spiritual, teachings and organizations, curious about, getting a Reiki certification or learning how to read oracle cards, or, it's not necessarily felt like a mission, but it's a curiosity. And because it's kind of a preoccupation and kind of a curiosity, and they recognize that, the formal kind of religious things don't work for them, they kind of step onto a spiritual path. That's what we consider to be a light worker. Now, an advanced light worker is someone who makes a bigger commitment to that, who starts to incorporate those practices not just as a hobby or as a curiosity, way back in the 80s when I was first getting started in all of this. My mom would take me to a crystal store, and I was curious about it. I'd read a book, Shakti Gawain, and different, creative visualization. I was curious. My mom was studying with Shirley MacLaine at the time when she had come out on a limb, and she was taking me to channeling sessions in the basements, people's basements. All the other kids were at the mall. I was in somebody's basement listening to her channel about the great beyond. And, but there was a kind of this hunger my mom had. She had a hunger for her own personal use. She was deeply curious. Whatever she was into, it could be golf, butterflies, decoupage, photography. Once she was in it, she was all in. So when she was into spirituality, she was all in. But she wasn't mission based on it. It was just really to sort of make sense of her life, her marriage, her kids, her, her existence personally, but it wasn't mission centric. So she was a light worker to some extent, but she wasn't what I would consider to be an advanced light worker. Well, she got advanced because she was applying it. She, did the Edgar Casey stuff and all of that, but I guess she was probably more intermediate. Advanced is when you start to take on a little bit more of a presence in the work. So you're applying it to your world and you're trying to master it in some way, right? That's to me what an advanced, light worker is. Somebody who's really sort of stepping in and applying it to their life and then being somewhat of a continuous learner. You have your own interpersonal missions. You want to manifest this type of lifestyle. You want to manifest this type of relationship. You want to manifest this type of job. And you do that. You have a practice, a personal practice. So that's an advanced light worker because you're applying it. You're not just reading about it. You're not just hoping for it. You're applying it. An advanced light leader is someone who goes to the next level where they know that they have this pull, this calling, this mission that is going to go beyond their own personal mastery and their own personal things and creature comforts, but out into the world and make a difference in the world at large, where they're going to be impacting, a subsegment of humanity or maybe all of humanity. And so, but they're doing it with an active consciousness and they're doing it knowing that the frequency aspect of them has to align also with the physical aspect of them, that they know that trying to just do it all from brawn and physicality and intellect will not work. Okay, so to me, that's what an advanced light leader is. Now, you may not be an advanced light leader yet, but you might have this rumbling inside of you where you say, there's something bigger. I have a business, but it's just something missing. Or I'm in a great career, but something's missing. Or I'm not working at all and something's missing. There's something bigger. There's something bigger. I feel like I have a book in me, or you don't even, you don't have to necessarily have a book or modality, but there's something brewing inside of you. There's something brewing inside of you. And so the first thing that's really important is to get yourself filled up, because a lot of people try to do it backwards. And that's because religion tries to celebrate the martyr, the person who sacrifices and slays and is barely able to take their own breath, but they're still giving all their stuff away to other people. That's martyrship. That's not what we're doing here. That's, a kind of an old construct from religious texts to make people dependent on, people in the church and give up their last dime and all that stuff. We're not looking for martyrs here. That's not what this is about. In fact, it's the complete opposite. What we're looking for here and what I'm addressing here and the people that I'm speaking to here are the first priority is to get you filled up, to give you, first of all, recognition of these senses that are supposed to carry 80% of how you live your world, and then not only recognition but mastery of it for your personal life. Get the house, get the cars, get the creature comforts, make yourself comfortable, make yourself at home here on the earth, on your earth walk. Make yourself at home. I've gone to, when I first published my book, I'll never forget this, my publisher got me to be a speaker at a huge expo, one of the big, like, whole life expos or whatever in LA. And there were just hundreds and just thousands and thousands of people. And we were in this big convention center in LA. And I remember walking in there, and it was just the worst feeling because it was just a zillion frequencies in there. I mean, people had like tuning bowls and tuning forks and incense and crystals and doing every modality, like, and all the galactic people and all the fairy people and the angel people and the psychics and the channels and the mediums and all blah, blah, blah. And you get in there, and all of us as practitioners, we all talk about it, like, oh my God, this is just the worst thing ever, because it's just, you get in there and it's such a mosh of energy and everybody's extra sensitive. And what you see a lot of is very the word grounded, but, sort of just not rooted in any kind of 3D-ness. They kind of like sort of bastardize the walk of earth and they, the only thing that should matter is, themselves and the ethers and the astral, and they're having sex on the astral, and they're meeting each other in the midnight astral and all this. And that's okay. That's cool if it's your thing. However, when you're on the mission track of, I have a bigger mission. I am a light leader. I have things to impart on the world in a bigger, broader way. You want to make sure that you're anchored, that your physical experience, you're at home, you're feeling good, that your health is good and it's manageable, that your emotions, you know how to manage your emotions, that your creature comforts are in place, that you have, reliable, transportation, that you have a nice home, that you're, and it doesn't have to be the Taj Mahal or mansion or anything like that, just whatever's nice for you. It could be a studio, it could be a tiny house, it could be a 50,000 square foot mansion, whatever it is, whatever makes you feel at home, cozy, have your own sanctuary, your place to recharge, your place to plug in, your place to replenish, your place to be creative, your place to be contemplative, your place to reset, recharge, and relate, right? That's where you want to start. And in the Academy, that's where we start, people, is how do we get your bucket list? What's your personal bucket list? You're allowed to have that. A lot of light leaders feel that they can't. And they're not allowed to have that. They should be giving to other people. And that's what was rewarded. I should be suffering. I should be giving to other people. I should be sacrificing because that's what people who, do this kind of stuff do. Who am I to charge for what I charge well for what I provide? I should really be doing this for free. All of that stuff, all of that crap needs to go away. You should charge healthily for what you're offering. I've worked with many spiritual leaders and spiritual business owners, and that's a big chunk of it. You can't take care of you, you can't take care of anybody else. And that's the difference between religion and the whole spirituality thing and frequency. Okay, so we want you to be healthy emotionally, financially, materially, and we get you, moving in that. Then you have that extra, right? You feel you can be generous. It's much be easier to be generous when you're filled up yourself. So if you've been feeling like, okay, in order to be a light worker or a light leader or something, I have to kind of sacrifice everything. Or if you've been saying things like, God, just let me win the lottery. If I win the lottery, then I'll just start a charity and I'll give it all. I'll give chunks and chunks to the animals in Korea and I'll do, all of that bargaining thing. No. That's very low frequency because it's saying I'm not worthy to receive unless I'm willing to give it all away. And it doesn't mean that you're not going to share your wealth, but it's very important to have that coming from the right engine so that you know that, okay, here's my principle, here's my launch pad, here's my feeding trough, and now I'm all filled up. I'm full. I have the clarity and the, I'm no longer in the weary light worker syndrome. I'm feeling empowered. I'm feeling powerful. I'm feeling inspired. I'm feeling like I have things that I'm aspiring to, and I feel like I have things that I would like to change and shift. I'm not talking about perfection. I'm talking about really feeling that sense of worthiness and that sense of personal power and energetic empowerment. Then you're ready to go on that bigger mission, and that's the work of the light leader. Okay, so that all being said, dig in to some of these unusual signs that you're heading towards that breakthrough. So one of the first things that I've seen highly sensitive light leaders and light workers, advanced light workers, real telltale sign of the breakthrough is about to happen is chaos. I no longer get freaked out when my life starts to look extremely 3D. Like last week, I had 2 floods, 3 dishwashers that were delivered and weren't installed properly, that broke and had to be replaced, and corroded pipe, and then we found mold behind the one of the leaking dishwashers and under the floorboard, and on and on and on. 7 days of contractors and mold remediation, all kinds of crazy stuff happening in my house. And then that tripwired into me having to cancel appointments and not be able to get things done, and then people being mad about that, and just all holy hell broke loose. Chaos, chaos, chaos. And when light leaders and light workers, advanced light workers, see that kind of thing happen in their house, they get very, very stressed out that, like, what in me is creating this, and where did I go wrong? And I thought I was beyond all of this. If your money all of a sudden it takes a dip, or if your relationship is like going haywire, or people are yelling and you're having all kinds of arguments with people that you normally don't even argue with, and the cashier is yelling at you and you're getting gypped on this, and somebody won't accept your return, and all these things, all that kind of like very, very, very in the trenches 3D stuff. That chaos, that churn, watch that. Instead of getting yourself all worked up like, what in me is reflecting this in my, frequency, and what about me is causing this demise in my life? And, instead of going kind of in that catastrophic direction, look at the chaos and say, okay, what's breaking through here? What's giving way? Because prior to a breakthrough, there's usually a sleuth off. There's like a, it's kind of like the cleaning out, clearing out, taking care of the weakest links. Now, here's what's interesting about that chaotic week that I was having. You'll appreciate this when I say it. I'm going to say it as fast as I can because I don't want to drag this story. But I just said to you, I had this dishwasher issue, and the dishwasher was, broke, and then they tried to fix it, and they found the pipe was corroded, and then so the guy had to take the dishwasher back out. They had to have a different plumber come in, fix the pipe, and they looked behind where the dishwasher had been, and they found the mold and all that. Well, while they were doing that, they had to literally rip out the whole center island. Like, they ripped out all the walls. They pulled out, like, from behind the cabinets and all that stuff that are under the center island. And when they opened the walls up, they found the Chinese coins, the gold coins that they have, like, knotted together. It's a symbol for feng shui. It's for money. It's like a money amulet. They found one of those in the wall. And they also found like a cup from the contractors. I mean, this place is, I don't know how old. Maybe these things are 15 years old, 10 years, however old. But they found this amulet built into the island. Now, I happen to live in an area because I'm in San Diego, and there's a tremendous amount of Asian community here. And there's a lot of feng shui. People do feng shui, Chinese New Year and stuff, so it's really fun. You can always get a nice money tree because we have that kind of thing in the grocery stores and stuff. And when I saw, and I've done a lot of feng shui, and so I was like, oh my God, look, that's in the center island. Holy moly. And the guy picks it up and he's like, oh, look at this thing. Look at this thing. I was like, oh, that's a money thing. That's like a money charm. And I say, and then it hit me, the bagua, like that wouldn't have been in the island if somebody who didn't know what they were doing hadn't put it there. So it made me realize that's the money section of the house. And think about it. If I'm saying, okay, I'm going into the 5D Academy for advanced light leaders. We're going into a totally new direction. We're expanding worldwide into a totally different tier, totally different level. What needs to be cleared? What needs to be addressed? And when they found that amulet in the center island next to the broken dishwasher, the mold, the corroded pipes, the constant clogging of the pipes in this building, because I'm in this big condo, and they were hydrogetting pipes. And this has been going on for weeks and weeks, this terrible plumbing, and they're coming to the tail end of fixing it. So now it's all fixed. But remember, plumbing, flooding, anything that has to do with the water in your house has to do with the money in your house, with the flow in your house. So what was happening was that chaos that was just ruining everything was actually an up-leveling. Financially, it was an up-leveling for expanding into the business, for expanding into the consciousness, for reaching further. Because I said, okay, we're doing the registration for the account. We're, team, this is where we're going. This is who we're looking for. We're starting to ramp things up and go for that expansion. And the first thing that came was a huge contraction in the house. Well, when I figured that out, I was like, oh my gosh, I took the amulet, I did, cleared it with the Palo Santo, did all the other things, and I had it on my altar for a little bit, and my higher self said, put it back. Now that it's cleaned, now that the dishwasher is working beautifully, everything's repainted, rebuilt, the pipes, everything is in a good place, everything is healed, put the amulet, cleared back. So I did. And so that smoothed things out. And I've had the last several days been very quiet, like, okay, recalibrate. So that's how chaos, you look at the chaos from a different vantage point. The second thing, things breaking away, right? So I kind of told a couple of these things all at once. But if things are breaking away, people are breaking away, your toaster all of a sudden dies, your microwave, doesn't work anymore. You'll find that your car, might take its last breath, or, various things sort of break away. That's another unusual sign, especially for advanced light leaders, because you're always asking for the next tier. You have to carry a lighter load. Because if you're preparing yourself to be mission-based in the sense of having your own, thing that's going to be forward-facing into the public, or even you're looking for your own personal mission to be amplified and to be elevated so that you can get to those bigger pieces of, more public mission. So this goes for whether you're working in the personal mission phase or the public mission phase. Things will break away as you're breaking through. You've got to lighten your load as you're going to break through. And things will start to reconfigure if they're not part of that infrastructure that's going to really support you so that you can be light and nimble and perceptive and sensitive and free and powerful to take action on what you're perceiving. Because it's one thing to perceive all this stuff and write all these pages and pages of channeling, but if you're not taking action on what they're saying to do, it's useless, right? It's not just for your consumption only, right? You're being prepared for something. So there's things will break away. The third thing is feeling like a need to nest more. Kind of all of a sudden opening your eyes. Now, this happened for a lot of people when they're home in COVID. They're like, holy moly, I've been living with this chill. Like, look at all these piles of things. Like, what? Look at, oh my goodness, look at those corners, look at this, So this feeling of needing to nest, of needing to redecorate, to rearrange furniture, to, all of a sudden organize the refrigerator, organize the cabinets, or all of a sudden you're paying more attention to, the way something is painted, or you notice, you want to watch a little more HGTV or go on Pinterest. You just feel like this nesting thing. It could even be like, nesting could be involving your office. It could be involving your file systems. It could be involving your car. It could be involving your wardrobe. It could be involving, how you're eating your diet, how you're cooking, your cooking, just whatever those things are that are kind of your core infrastructure. When they start to feel like they need an overhaul, that's another sign that you're ready to make a breakthrough, because what they'll do before you give you that big breakthrough that you've been wanting, what the your higher self and the energies that be, the powers that be will do is they will prepare you so that, because as you give more, as you get more, even if it's just more money or more material things, like you're going to get that new big fabulous house, you have to be shored up, because there's going to be a whole lot of things go along with the excitement of getting a new house, but then there's like the recalibration of the energy of the new house. Is, rearranging things. There's all sorts of things, and you need to have that sort of home base for yourself, not just on a physical level, but an energetic level. So feeling like that need to nest more. You might all of a sudden want to start drinking more tea, or giving yourself more little pockets of nurturing. You go for a walk when you never go for a walk, that type of thing. So it's really shoring up your recharge station. Big sign that a breakthrough is about to come. The fourth one is distancing yourself from people. A lot of people I've seen in my academy and otherwise, other clients I've worked with, what I've noticed over the years is the distancing from people is a big telltale sign that you're about to make a breakthrough. Because remember, as your frequency rises, anything that's not of similar frequency will drop away. A lot of people they have light worker leaving syndrome, I call it, where they feel like they want to slow themselves down because if they go too much further, they're going to lose their husband or their spouse or their wife or whatever, their significant other, because they're outpacing them energetically. And so there's a distancing from people, or people start to distance themselves from you. All of a sudden it's like the person you talk to every day, you just don't feel like it. Or you feel like this craving to go on a social media detox. I've seen a lot of that lately. And you just sort of shut it down where you're just like, okay, I can't. One of my guilty pleasures is reality TV. I mean, I love the Housewives and the Kardashians and all that stuff. People think I'm nuts. It's just a guilty pleasure. It's just like an escape. It's just like sometimes I just don't want to be the benevolent spiritual person. I just want to like sit and watch, crazy stuff on TV. And I turn all of it off. I get when I go into this side of faith where I'm about to make a big leap, a big breakthrough, I all of a sudden, very naturally, it's not conscious. I watch it and I'm like, God, that's chaotic. I don't need that. I turn it off. Right? It's not entertaining. It's just noise. And this last season of it has really been, noise, a lot of it. So there's a lot of things that I would normally have been watching that I just turned them off because I was, I was throttling. So when you start to throttle, frequency-wise, when your higher self is starting to rev your engines for change, rev your engines for revelation, rev your engines for the miracles, rev your engines for the manifestation, for the alchemy, for the actualization of the things that you desire, it will lighten your load of excess, people, places, things, distractions. Okay? The last one I'll mention is that your profession may not make sense anymore. You start to go to work or you start to look at your client load or you start to look what you're teaching or how you're presenting it. For those of you in business, maybe you have programs you've been presenting and the numbers drop off, or they didn't drop off, but you're just bored out of your mind as you're talking about it. And you're like, it just doesn't make sense. It makes sense on paper. It makes sense to everybody else. I've had some dentists and doctors and psychotherapists and various things in my programs, and they're tried and true practices that all their friends and family understand. Like everybody gets what a psychotherapist is. Everybody gets what a bank executive is. Everybody gets what a lawyer is and a doctor and all that. And when they decide they don't want to do that stuff anymore, people like the normal muggle people in society are pretty heartbroken, because it's like, well, I understand what that is. Like when I left my corporate job at the phone company, in management, my mother's like, what do you do? Are you out of your mind? Everybody needs a phone. Everybody needs a dial tone. What's the matter with you? It's just not, Ma. It's just no. And she couldn't get her head around it. So your profession, if your profession is not seeming to make sense anymore, that's another sign that that's dropping away and that something bigger is right around the corner. So instead of focusing, and this is the big nugget for the day, instead of focusing on what you're losing and why are you not liking this job anymore, what should you do to change that, you need to start asking different questions. The question, one of the questions, and there's many you can ask, and there's many ways you can ask this once you're fluent, but one of the questions you can start with is, where am I going? What are you trying to show to me? Start focusing on the expanded part, not the contracting part. And that's going to be a huge repositioning so that your expanded part will start to become more and more in your heightened awareness and more in your ability to interpret it, instead of most people, especially if they're not fluent and they're not familiar with their 5D toolkit, their mental mind, which is your 3D side, it's going to, your mental mind without 5D fluency can never come up with its own new idea. It's a solution. Solutions are always downloaded from the higher self. They don't come from your mental mind, as smart as you might think you are. And whether you know it or not, it doesn't come from there. But when your mental mind starts to spin, when you start to read the same book over and over again because you're hoping that, something different will pop up on a page that didn't happen before, when you're missing information, your mental mind will drag you. Say, oh, it'll go back to the past. Okay, I saw this before. Oh, that must mean this and this must mean that. Or it'll start to have anxiety about the future. Again, it's searching. What it's really searching for is new information. It can't come up with that by itself. So when you're fluent in the language of your higher self, what I have my clients do, what I do is we channel the answer. We channel the narration of what's happening. And you may not get the exact finite answer, but you get the next answer. And then you act on that, and then the next answer is downloaded to you. And you act on that, and then the next answer is downloaded to you, and you act on that. And when you're really advanced and you're really fluent, and you start to recognize how to upload yourself into the parallel where it's already finished, where it's already done, you start to, you learn how to do that. You start to get more advanced and more nimble in your practices, and you go from sort of the longer form versions to more of the speeded up versions of this stuff, the more efficient versions of this stuff. You can't do it just by intellect alone, by reading about it, hearing about it on a podcast. It's about taking action, rolling up your sleeves, jumping in, making a decision, making a commitment to your own personal transformation, making a commitment to your mission, making a commitment to your heart space, to your heart center, and then learning what it takes, and then applying that to the day-to-day, to whatever is going on in your world in real time. One of the things that I had made a very big commitment to when I started on the facilitator teacher path is that, one, I'd never ask you to do anything I haven't done myself, because I don't think that's fair. And I've seen a lot of practitioners, they've been on my shows and whatever. I saw a lot of that. I saw a lot of people like using their clients as guinea pigs because they weren't doing the work themselves. That I don't believe in. But it's super important to master piece by piece and apply what you're learning with the narration, the help of a mentor, and the help of your higher self. If you have somebody who's helping you to sort of know what the ropes are and give you that operating manual, and then you've gotten fluent in the language of your higher self, so your higher self is that narrator for your life as well. When you come up with a manifesting process and you have the vision boards and everybody's doing the affirmations, and it's really more of a wish and a hope as opposed to a deliberate alchemical process. Well, without the fluency of your higher self, you're not getting the how-tos. You're not hearing what's the inspired next step. You're hearing, oh, okay, wait, well, what do I need to do? Do I need to get a second job? Do I need to get this? It's going to happen. When's it going to happen? And then you want to go to a psychic and this and that to get a prediction. Well, the predictions you don't need when you're fluent. Sometimes it's nice to get something, as a ground person, you might talk to a friend who's a psychic and say, hey, am I on the right track with this? This feels like, and they say, yeah, I'm kind of getting that too. I'm seeing kind of more a little bit of this or that. That's a different thing than handing your life over to a psychic and having a reading every day or 10 times a day or whatever and flipping through cards constantly trying to figure out what's going to happen to me. There's nothing more disempowering than that. There's nothing more disempowering than that. So we want to get you out of that space. So if you, so those are the 5 unusual signs that you're on the way to a breakthrough. And if you're experiencing any of that, hang tight, really stop, take a look, take a listen to this podcast again. Because I know I went kind of fast, because I always do, with a little New York speediness and being a New Yorker. But if you are feeling like you're an advanced light leader and you're ready for that bigger transformational approach, you're ready to master this stuff, you're ready to get the stuff on your own bucket list, finish that out, and set up your mission, your personal mission, your professional mission, and really get into a community of others who really value that, then I'd love for you to apply to the Academy. And you can do that by going to www.theahaway.com/5D apply. And that's in the notes, in the show notes, so you can see that link there. And we'll get in touch with you if the application is accepted. I don't accept all of them because there's plenty of people who are not ready for this, but the ones who are, we'll get in touch with you about, interviewing with me and other things to move down that process. We are having a wonderful retreat coming up, and it's going to be on, and it was already downloaded to me. I have 3 retreats that have been downloaded to me. So we're in the Academy. We do virtual retreats, 4-hour virtual retreats, amongst a lot of other things, group coaching and, all kind of community building and blah, blah, blah. But this retreat that's coming up is on worthiness. And worthiness is a really hard thing for most people to articulate, but there's been an entire process that's been downloaded to me that is really a game changer. And it's really specifically for the advanced light leader, advanced light worker who's ready to get those kind of, I call it the carbon, unworthiness is the carbon monoxide of manifesting success. It's the carbon monoxide, it's the quiet poison. And, you know, the way it was downloaded to me is absolutely brilliant. So the gals who are already in the academy are preparing for this. But if you're interested and you want to apply to the academy, it would be something that if you registered soon, you'd be able to participate in. We're also going to be doing a one on channeling the deeper messages of your higher self, and another one on money and abundance, and 5D money and abundance. So those are some of the retreats that are coming up. And those are they're not standalone. It's not something you can just do the retreat and not be in the academy. We want everybody on the same page. And then the other thing that's coming up as well that I'm starting to book for 2022, I'm already sold out for 2021, is the VIP personal retreat days with me here in La Jolla. So it's 1 or 2 days. You fly in here with me in La Jolla. It's just you and me. And we customize a 1 to 2 day experience for you where we sit down on whatever project you want to apply the work to, the 5D work to, whether it's you're working on a book or a new business or a project or a personal project, you want to find the soulmate or lose weight, whatever those things are. We sit and we have a channeled energetic strategy session, and then we spend the afternoon on the cliffs here in La Jolla, these beautiful, beautiful cliffs. When I moved here, I actually walked all the beaches for about 2 years, and I found all the energetic vortexes. There's one in particular that we have negative, like a counterclockwise spinning energy where it's a releasing vortex, and it's amazing. I've had several clients come, and we also do this for our Summit by the Sea, and they do a big releasing exercise in this negative spinning vortex, this counterclockwise vortex, and it's a massive clearing and release. And then we go to the other side of the cliffs to the manifesting vortex where the energy is spinning in the clockwise direction, and they send the frequency out for their manifestations. Amazing things have happened for folks who've come to these vortexes. So we do that in the afternoon of the first day. And then we customize the second day. We do more work on the cliffs. There's other things, we've done labyrinth walking, we've done meditation gardens, we've done I have my own healers who I use who will come and do customized sessions for you based on what's been prescribed. It's a really, really amazing, very customized, I call it bespoke experience. And if that's something of interest to you, then send me an email at support at ahamomentsinc.com, and we can talk to you further about that and the details and whatnot, because that's certainly it's one of my most favorite things to do. People in the academy have first dibs at those because I only do one of those a month because it's a very customized thing, and I'm booking out all of the months in the new year. So if that's something that resonates with you and you'd like to come meet with me and kind of just have that big sort of quantum leap experience, that's the thing. That's the thing that I would highly suggest you considering. It's not a discounted, cheap experience. Obviously, it's the most customized thing that I do, but it is absolutely a game changer. We've had people go home and have huge transformations, getting investors for their businesses. It's coming into, chunks of income that they hadn't expected, relationships taking a totally different turn, ideas downloading, all kinds of things. It's been an amazing service, and I would like to, in 2022, I made a commitment to do more of them because I really enjoy them. So those are some of the things coming up. If you are an advanced light worker, light leader, I highly recommend that you get in touch with us, and I look forward to working with you. And I would suggest listening to this again, because you never know. You might listen and hear just another nuance that's going to help you a little bit further along your way. Okay, so this has been fun. We'll do another one of these next week. I'm really enjoying the feedback that I've been getting about the advanced work. And be sure to send us an email if you have questions, if you want to have me address a particular topic or something's coming up for you that you think is, something that you can't quite figure out on your own, by all means, send us an email at support@ahamomentsinc.com, and I'll be happy to address it on another show coming up. All right? Okay, so let's end with my motto, which is, you truly can have exactly what you want. You absolutely deserve it too. And in this 5D energy, anything is possible. Take care, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.